told him, I was like, it's not great. We're just talking.
Well, Rachel, you know what I'm gonna do since we're gonna start posting these? What
are you gonna do?
Oh my god, Thunderfoot, shut up. I'm gonna do like a little introduction where I introduce you and me, and I'd say, welcome to the podcast. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You ready? Okay, so, hello everyone.
Are you gonna say it?
Rachel, goddamn.
Oh my gosh, do I need... I was just gonna say, do you want me to record on my phone?
Oh, yeah, just in case, yeah, do that.
Don't take that tone with me, lady. Trying to help.
You ready? Can you be quiet for like 10 seconds?
No, I'm trying to find my audio.
But can you do that quietly for 10 seconds while I introduce us?
Wait, don't you want me recording?
I want you recording, like, your stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
sound. Wow. Sorry, I'm really bad at
everything. I love you. I'm sorry.
It's recording. Oh my goodness. It's recording. Look, things are hard, okay?
Things are hard.
They are hard.
Rachel?
Yes.
We're gonna go in 1. No, wait, that's not what you do. You count down. You go 2. No, what number should I start at?
From 3.
On 3. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
And welcome to Wayward Something's podcast. Rachel, I need you to zip it. This is the podcast where we talk about the television show Supernatural. I am Joelle.
That's not what it's called.
No, it's definitely called that, Rachel. I'm Joelle.
You said natural weird.
And I'm joined by my oldest friend, soon-to-be ex-friend, Rachel.
What the heck?
Breaking up with you.
Hello. I am the soon-to-be ex-friend.
Well, Rachel.
Because I'm bad at things and can't computer.
You have a very important technological job that we can't mention on the podcast, but...
Well, I like to say, and
you cut off like
sometimes it's just a new struggle all over again.
You cut off on my end as soon as you said I like to say, and then it just went silent.
I will say it again.
Okay.
Every new thing is a new thing, and it is a new struggle. Every time.
Listeners, we will have t-shirts with that saying available on Redbubble by the end of the week.
I sure hope.
You still there? You cut out again.
Oh man, why is it cutting out?
Because we're speaking to each other from across the country.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, so today we're talking about episode 4 of Supernatural, which is the way that you say that show.
That is not
the way it's always been said. Eric Kripke called me up personally and he said, it's Supernatural. People have been saying it wrong for years. Is it
Kripke or is it Creep-K?
It's a good point. I don't know. Maybe it's Creep-K. So episode... like Young Frankenstein. It's Frankenstein. You probably haven't seen that movie.
No, I have not.
You haven't seen many movies. How many movies have you seen, do you think?
Many.
Many?
Many.
I don't think you've seen many. I think you've seen some.
Many.
I think I've seen many.
Many movie. Much movie.
Episode 4.
Computer hard.
Episode 4 of Supernatural. What was it about? What was this episode?
They went on a plane.
Yes, there we are.
You know what would have been great is if Samuel L. Jackson was on it.
I kept thinking about snakes on a plane while I was watching this episode too. There's a part where, like, we're skipping way ahead, but there's a part where, like, Sam is crawling on the ground while the plane is crashing, and I thought
that was so nasty!
yeah, you know exactly what scene I'm thinking? Or are you thinking about just crawling around on a plane?
No. I was thinking about that too while I was watching. I was like, that's so gross. Why is he on the ground?
Someone with high heels might step through his head.
I cringed while I watched him crawl on the dirty plane floor.
Anyway, snakes on a plane. No, wait.
Oh my gosh. Thunderfoot just sat his butt on the rim of my cup.
That's gross, man.
Yes, I'm done with that.
Thunderfoot is a cat, for people who are listening. Anyway, what's the name of this episode?
The Phantom Traveler.
The Phantom Traveler. This is the first episode with a real live demon. And
yes.
So, I want to start off by asking you, Rachel, how afraid are you of flying?
I am not afraid of flying.
Really?
The scariest part is trying to use that tiny restroom without touching anything.
That is quite scary, and I do try generally to avoid using the restroom as much as possible when on a plane.
I just do it. It's gonna happen. And so I just go for it. But I hate it every time.
Well, prior to the apocalypse that we're currently living through, I used to fly quite a bit, and I've always hated it. Like, I'm not afraid of heights or anything, but flying makes me extremely nervous.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't like that. I feel claustrophobic more than anything.
Yeah, it's very tight quarters.
And then you, like, never know when there's going to be turbulence, so I feel like on the edge of my seat the whole time. So,
yeah.
Usually my strategy is to just drink a bunch of whiskey and hope that I can fall asleep.
I usually fall asleep during the takeoff.
I can't.
For some reason, that's like the best time for me to fall asleep.
I usually can't.
So I'll
fall asleep
settle
at
in
all.
and I fall asleep during the takeoff. And a lot of times, once we're up in the air, and then they do a little ding to let you know we're up in the air, then I wake up because of the ding.
That's incredible to me.
Like, so I take a little nap, and then I'll like read my book or I'll watch a movie. It's a little me time, you know.
I usually, like, even on long flights, I can't sleep at all. The last time I flew back from Africa, I had, like, a whole row to myself because I was flying Ethiopian and nobody wants to fly them anymore.
Nice.
And I had, like, the whole row to myself. I laid down, like, the entire flight, and it was amazing.
Awesome.
But now probably the next time I fly again will be when we have our planned trip for 2022. Because I don't imagine airports are going to be...
Oh yeah, we were supposed to do something fun this year, weren't we?
We were going to go to China this year, but we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah. That didn't happen.
Yep. But I still hope that we can do the trip that we wanted to do in 2 years' time.
I betcha. Yeah, 2022. You know, that's when the big movies are being released now.
Yeah.
So, maybe that's when we can travel.
Maybe. We'll see. Stay tuned to everybody listening to this. Okay.
So, one thing I noticed was, you know, the beginning of this episode, you see the demon go into the dude's eyes, right?
Yeah, I noticed that too.
And it was not only did it go in his eyes, but it just looked different than it does later in the show. So, it was just a bunch of black particles instead of the black smoke.
I did note I have that in my notes here. That it looks more like...
You took notes?
I always take notes. I'm very prepared. I take this show very seriously, Rachel. And I wish that you would too. I wish that you would too, because it's what our fans deserve. I wish I
had it together that much. Instead, I'm just running late for our call because I'm at Target picking out a smoky sweatshirt.
It's very selfish of you. Yeah, it looks like the sand from, like, you remember the 1999 Mummy? Best movie?
Yeah! It's the best movie.
That sort of effect. And it does go in his eyes rather than his mouth. There's a lot of things throughout this...
It's slow and it's quiet.
Yeah.
Instead of the smoke sounds like a freaking train's running in their mouth.
And it looks, like, painful when it happens to them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of, like, demon lore that sort of seems to change later on. So in this episode, they described, like, if you're anxious or you have, like, an addiction or whatever, if there's a chink in your armor, I think is what Sam says, then you are at risk of demon possession. But...
Yes, you're wide open to possession.
But later on, it's just, like, demons can go into whoever they want, unless you've got, like, special marks on you to protect yourself.
I noticed that, and I don't know if that's, like, a misconception they had, or if it's just easier for the demons to possess you if you're, like, not calm. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, they haven't really seen many demons.
Yeah. They haven't seen many demons yet, and it definitely seems like they have some misconceptions, because they talk about, like, how possession is sort of, they're referring to possession like, you know, the Exorcist, and not, like, a real possession as it is in the show, where they're, like, controlling someone and doing stuff like this kind of all the time. But they've never... So the demon is possessing someone on a plane and crashing the plane. That's what's basically going on in this episode.
Yes. That happened in the first little bit.
In the first little bit, the demon possesses a dude who's scared of flying, and then the dude gets up in the middle of the flight, like 40 minutes into the flight, that's important, and he goes over to the emergency exit door, and he opens that emergency exit door, and the plane crashes.
Yes. And he, like, does this cool thing where he just, like, flies out the window, and he's like, wow!
I don't think that guy lives. I mean, the demon obviously lives, but
the dude was toast. Alright.
Yeah, the dude was toast.
And apparently all but 7 people who were on that flight were also toast.
Yeah, so 7 people survived that plane crash. And then we cut to the first of one of our many, many hotel rooms that don't look like any hotel room that has ever existed.
I know, I've never seen these cool hotel rooms with these, like, dividers between the beds and the door.
Yeah, and, like, amazing wallpaper, like, super kind of, like, 60s, 70s kind of vibe. I love it. I would live in one of their hotel rooms. I love it,
too. So, I also noticed that, like, Dean's asleep in shorts.
Yeah, was it shorts or was it boxers?
It's one of those, but... Like, later in the show, it seems like they're always just sleeping in their jeans and plaid shirts, which is super uncomfortable.
Yeah, they do tend to sleep in their clothes a lot.
I don't know why you wouldn't sleep in your shorts or your boxers or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, they're in the car all day. They probably feel all grungy. Why would you sit on the bed like that?
Yeah, that's gross. Jeans in bed is gross.
It is gross.
You trace those jeans all over the place. I always
change out of my outside clothes before I sit on the bed.
Very good.
Because who knows what was on them.
Yep.
But yeah, so Dean was sleeping in shorts, and he's giving Sam a hard time for not sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
But later in the show, we find out Dean doesn't sleep very much.
Yeah, they never sleep very much.
So, I think he sleeps more now, though, at the beginning of the show, before things get really rough for him.
Before they cause the end of the world several times.
Yes.
That can weigh on a person. And
that sure can.
Sam isn't sleeping because he's having nightmares about Jessica, his girlfriend that died in the first episode. And then Dean gets a call, right, from a dude that he helped with his father several years ago. It's amazing that Dean just, I mean, considering the number of cases he's probably worked with his dad, that guy just, like, says his name and he's like, oh yeah, I remember you. I definitely wouldn't remember someone I met, like, for 2 weeks, 2 years ago.
I know, right?
So that guy is, like, he works for, like, the airplane manufacturer or something?
I am not really sure what he does.
He says when they go and talk to him about the plane crash, he's like, it was one of ours. Which makes me feel like he's, like, the airplane manufacturer. And he seems to be working in some sort of, like, factory kind of thing. And at first, when I was trying to remember the episode, I thought that he was, like, FDA or something. But he's not. So, they are gonna go, there's weird noises on the black box recorder for the plane. Which, by the way, why don't they make the whole plane out of the black box? Am I right? Anyway, so there's like EMP on the black box that they find out says no survivors. Which, so, at some point during this show, they're using like a EMF to try and like find the demon, but I don't remember them using that like later on. I don't think like EVP is related to demons later on. It's just more of a ghost thing.
That's a good point. Maybe because later on they just know.
Yeah.
Like, they determine pretty quick when things are demons.
Well, they always, they go and they investigate. Oh, before we get back to them investigating the plane crash, I wanted to say that Dean goes into like a copy store, like a Kinko's kind of thing, and he is in there forever forging government IDs for Homeland Security. Nobody in the store looks at what he's doing and is like, "Oh, you're forging IDs." Let's say Homeland Security. Maybe
I've never had a Kinko's person try and check out what I'm trying to copy.
I haven't done much work in a Kinko's before, but I feel like it might be somewhat obvious that what you're doing is a bit shady.
I guess when forging, you do usually use your own home equipment.
Yeah, but they don't have a home.
They don't have a home, they just have Kinko's.
And a car.
And a car.
It'd be hard to fit a printer and a scanner and whatever in a car. Laminator.
Yeah, man. The trunk's full of knives and guns and stuff.
Yeah, no room for a printer.
No.
But I do feel like Dean's kind of smart to pick Homeland Security as the cover. Because he is...
Yeah.
It was a new agency at that point. It was really new. That was created in, 2021 or something. Not 2021. 2001.
2001. And I would also like to note that later on, I know I'm jumping ahead, but
fine. We have no
you
real
brought
process.
holy water on the plane.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, this is just after 9/11, and you brought, an entire liter of holy water on a plane.
Like,
how did he do that?
No way he did that.
No. Also, this is also, at the end of the episode, jumping way ahead, but, when the captain comes out, or the co-pilot comes out of the cockpit, I don't know if you've noticed when you're on planes, usually they use, the drink cart to sort of block off access to the cockpit anytime the door is opening or closing.
I have not noticed that.
Maybe I just, I'm so bored on planes. I spend a lot of time watching the stewardesses. But yeah, I've noticed that they, sort of blockade the door anytime anybody comes out of the cockpit. Anyway, it doesn't seem to be a post-9/11 flying time, because they just, get on the plane with no luggage, nobody stops them.
And how did they even, get on the plane? Because they were running pretty short on time.
Yeah, it was boarding.
Sorry, we're jumping ahead.
Yeah, we are jumping. Anyway, let's go back. Let's go back to they are Homeland Security. And they start interviewing, do they first interview the guy who got possessed, his widow? Or do they go to...
Yeah, they interview her.
They interview her first, or do they interview the first survivor guy that's in the insane asylum first?
Oh.
It doesn't really... I think they go interview
they interview the guy in the insane asylum.
But he doesn't give them too much information. I think he says that he saw a guy, open up the emergency hatch. And then, because he saw...
go see him first.
Because he saw that guy, then they track down that guy's widow. That's why. That makes sense.
Yeah. Go and pretend to be Homeland Security and check out the plane.
And they find sulfur on the plane.
And when they find sulfur, okay, I love it, because they find something on the plane, right? And they scrape it off. And they take it to the dude who works for the plane manufacturer.
Yeah.
And he just looks at it under a microscope, and he's like, oh yeah, that's sulfur.
Would you be able to do that, Rachel? You're a chemist. Can you?
No,
look at a thing and say it's
no,
something?
that's not how you do. No. If you could tell what something was just by looking at it, we would not have a lot of the things we have today. Like NMR and IR and
yeah.
it can be hard to identify things. I don't think you can just look at it under the scope and say, oh yeah, that's that for sure.
But especially if it's sulfur, you can smell that it's sulfur. Sulfur has a very distinct odor.
Yeah, I mean, if it's sulfur, you can smell it. So it seems like, if anything, no one just smelled it.
Yeah.
Also, why did he have a microscope? It looked like he had some kind of cool imaging software, too, at his desk.
For looking at planes.
What does he even do, though, that he has that?
Little tiny planes.
Girl?
Little tiny planes.
Anyway, so, there's just things I thought of. I'm like, you can't just look at something and know what it is. but so they just found out it's sulfur.
No, backtracking to when they're at the plane. Can we
They're
backtrack
still trying to figure out, like, they still don't know, right? That it was a demon.
Rach, can we backtrack a little bit to them looking at the plane itself? When they're...
What?
So they have to go buy suits. And they buy suits to go on the plane. And, they look like they're on their way to prom. It's super cute.
I love how when they, get out of the place right before the other dudes show up, and they're just, walking, and then the alarm goes off, and they just start, fast walking.
Yeah. Did they know those guys were coming? Is that why they were leaving, or they were just lucky enough to be done at the right time?
They didn't give any indication of knowing the dudes were coming.
Yeah. Well, he's sort of looking around the corner, looking to see if people are...
They probably heard them coming. They probably heard... But then, how'd they even get away? Seems like those dudes would've... Homeland Security's a big deal.
Yeah, it's not greatly secured, that plane crash stuff.
It's not. No. I guess they did have to hop a giant fence.
They did have to hop a fence.
A giant fence.
Pretty giant, 8 feet tall. I don't know.
I mean, I would have struggled hopping that giant fence.
Oh, and then the other thing that I wanted to talk about when they were actually looking at the plane wreck itself is that they do that thing where Dean pulls out his EMF meter.
Yep.
And Sam says, what is that? And he, explains it because it's a TV show and they need to explain what an EMF meter is to the audience. And then
even though they've already used it?
They haven't used it yet, have they?
Oh, is that the first time they use it?
That's the first time they used it. So it's the typical thing in a TV show where someone has to, over-explain how equipment works so that the audience knows. And then Sam, who's been hunting his whole life, is like, yeah, I know. So I appreciate that they did that. But Dean has made his own EMF reader out of a Walkman, which is...
Oh, that's right. Yeah, this is the first time they use it.
Do people still use Walkmans in 2005? I mean, I definitely had one.
I think Dean's kind of a little bit behind the times already, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But, I think I had a CD Walkman around that time.
Yeah, I had a CD Walkman around that time, but not a tape Walkman anymore.
No, those were not the thing anymore.
No. Tapes. Anyway, so, yeah, I thought that was funny. So then what was the next part you had already started talking about?
Oh, when they run out?
Yeah, when they run out.
The fast walk when they hear the alarm?
Yep.
That's fun. And then it cuts to the pilot.
Yes.
Who is, waiting to go off. The dude's a hot mess.
You cut out a little bit.
He's not feeling good about going out in this little plane. Oh. Well. How am I now?
Now you're good.
So it cuts to the pilot who's about to go up in a tiny plane for the first time since the accident, and he's not feeling good about it.
Nope. He's a little nervous.
He's pretty nervous.
Which is a chink in his armor.
Chink in his armor.
The demon takes advantage and goes into the eyes. Sand in your eyes. It's not comfortable.
Sand in your eyes.
I also kind of noticed how, like, I was rewatching, like, X-Files recently, and you know how they have that, alien oil stuff that goes in your eyes?
Yeah!
I kind of noticed how similar that is, and I know that, like, Eric Kripke, or Kripke, or however you say his name, was, like, highly influenced by X-Files, so I wonder, like, if that's a coincidence. Or it's just, like, that's a generally kind of easy, spooky thing to do to someone's eyes and make them go black in order to indicate that they have some other force going on inside them.
Maybe maybe it is going in the eyes, because then the eyes turn black.
Yeah.
Right, and then, I don't know, maybe later on they have it going through the mouth, but they still have the eyes turn black.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know,
yeah, it's sort of like, when the demons flip their eyes open to that black thing, there's always sort of like that click sound, sort of like, I don't know, it's sort of reptilian, the way that they do it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Anyway, I appreciate that the demon possesses the same demon who, for some unknown reason, wants to cause plane crashes. He possesses that pilot, and then 40 minutes into the flight, he's gonna crash the plane again. And he uses the same exact pun that he used the first time He
sure did.
So, I like that this demon just is going around crashing planes, using the same pun, just over and over again. Time sure does fly, or whatever exactly he says.
Time sure flies!
Yeah. And so, Dean and Sam get the news that the pilot died because they're hanging out with the dude that first called them Jerry, or whatever his name is. And they go to Nazareth. What state is this supposed to be in? Is it like Pennsylvania?
I don't know. I don't remember them saying.
Yeah.
I mean, they said, I think they said where the guy lived.
Oh, where did the guy?
With the poltergeist thing.
Oh.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I thought that was Pennsylvania. So I just assumed that this was Pennsylvania again.
Yeah.
And later on when they're in the airport, I was looking at it because I'm like, does that look like the Philly airport to me? Or does it just look like every airport ever? Because they all sort of look the same.
The Philly airport is weird.
It's not that weird.
It's a little weird. Every time I get there, I feel like I have to walk forever to find the exit.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, more than like DFW. DFW is
for sure
such a convenient airport. As far as airports go, I think DFW is one of the better.
They're all like right there. There's so many of them. And then Philly, I'm like walking for a good 10 minutes before I can find a way out.
That is true. But Philly's DFW is a bigger airport than Philly, probably.
It is.
I think maybe Philly started out smaller and then expanded, and that's why it's kind of weirdly laid out. Okay, so the Philly airport is weird. We've established.
I'm so glad we established that.
Well, it's important, because if that's where they're flying out of, if they're flying out of Philly in the end of the episode, like, I've arrived at the Philly airport, like, maybe 20 minutes before boarding and gotten on the plane.
What the heck?
Yeah. I knew I was flying on, like, a low, capacity kind of day. I think I was flying to Dallas at that point. So it was like it wasn't an international flight or anything.
There have been a couple times where I came close to being late for my flight.
Yeah.
And, but there was one time in particular, we hit traffic, and I was not gonna make it, but then my flight got delayed.
That's amazing.
They sent the text. They're like, flight rescheduled for this time. And I was like, yeah.
That's amazing. I get so stressed out. I mean, I know I just said that I've arrived late for flights before, but, like, it's a thing on TV shows. Like, New Girl, they miss flights. Like, Nick has missed a flight, and Nick is supposed to be poor, right? So, like, you would never miss a flight. If you paid like $500 for a ticket and you're living like
I know, it's
paycheck to
expensive
paycheck.
to miss a flight. Man, that would suck. suck.
Yeah, I would never forgive myself if I missed a flight.
Unless you fly Southwest and you can cancel, 15 minutes ahead of time?
Really?
It might be 30 minutes. It's something ridiculous. Like, you can cancel just almost right up to the flight time. And then you'll get a credit. You won't get your money back, but you'll get a credit towards another flight.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, I used to, when I was flying to Dallas, like, all the time I would fly Southwest. This is not an interesting conversation for a podcast. What are we doing?
We're so bad at this.
I know.
Alright.
So anyway, 40
back
minutes.
to the show.
Yeah, 40 minutes means, well, the number 40 in numerology is death.
Yes.
That Dean says. Again, establishing that Dean actually knows a lot. He's not as much of an idiot as he is portrayed as being. So then they decide that this demon must be just targeting survivors on the plane, or from that first flight that crashed in the beginning of the episode. And they call around all the survivors, and the only person that seems to be flying anytime soon is the stewardess, who at the beginning of the episode interacted with the demon and saw his, demon-y eyes.
Yes.
Which is very lucky that she
did,
because then it makes it easier for her to believe Sam and Dean later on.
And even then, I feel like, she's watching them, pour what looks like acid on the thing. I mean, we know it's holy water, but it's burning the dude. Like, she doesn't really know what's going on.
No.
If I were her, I think I would be freaking out a little bit more.
Yeah, I think I would be a little less willing to trust. And again, this is 4 years post 9/11. You don't necessarily want to just let people be doing weird stuff to captains on planes.
It's true.
But we find out that Dean is afraid to fly.
Yes, it's hilarious.
Yeah, this is the first, I think, example of how good comedically Jensen Ackles is, I think, as an actor. He's very funny to watch when he plays Scared Dean.
Yep. I like him playing Scared Dean.
And 40 minutes into the flight, she hasn't even started drink service yet, so that's...
But what about the part where Sam tells him to calm down and he does the breathe out thing, and it's hilarious.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to describe that any further?
What?
Do you want to describe that any further? He does...
He is trying to exhale to calm himself down so he's not wide open to possession.
Yeah.
And he just, keeps exhaling and keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. And he makes this weird face.
Yeah.
And it was entertaining.
Very entertaining. So they have, they're talking about the possession... Oh! First of all, they get to the airport, they're 5 hours away.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I mean, somehow they made it. It seemed like they weren't going to, and then they did.
So, but they were 5 hours away when they were talking to the guy, Jerry, or whatever his name is. I honestly don't remember if the name is Jerry. And then they're going back to where the stewardess is, so she must not be flying out of... If he's in Pennsylvania, she must not be flying out of Philly. She must be flying out of, God, what's it, Boston or something?
Somewhere else.
Yeah. Anyway, so that makes our whole discussion of the Philadelphia airport even less relevant to this episode.
Everything's irrelevant.
So this is the first time they've done an exorcism, and they're talking about if you exorcise the demon, then it becomes more powerful, which is definitely not how it works later on. Usually they just exorcise it and immediately send it straight to hell.
Oh, yeah. That was weird. Their demon stuff is a little bit weird in this episode.
Well, I think part of it is that they, also... They don't know the demon trap thing yet, so maybe they are, expelling it and then sending it to hell later on, but it's trapped in the demon trap, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know. Too bad they don't know about the devil's trap. Man,
yeah.
That would have made their lives easier. Although, it was kind of easier just to, exorcise it while it was possessing the plane? Is that what
it doesn't take them. I mean, they get it out of the captain. They get the stewardess to get the captain to come back to the back of the plane. Which
somehow.
Which again, like, if she hasn't done drink service yet, I kind of doubt that this fasten seatbelt sign would be off. It usually isn't. Until after, in my experience. We're really deeply analyzing. Anyway, and so they convince her to get the co-pilot to come back. And then they, like, attack him. And he seems sort of underpowered for a demon, because, Dean just, like, clocks in, and he immediately goes down, and then they can hold him down.
It was the element of surprise.
Maybe it was the element of surprise. Maybe he was still sort of, like, hoping he could fake being a human being at that point.
Yep.
Because he doesn't
Who knows,
really...
man?
Yeah, he says... They say the name of God in Latin.
Yep.
Cristo.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that part where Sam, like, calls Dean back 3 different times to, like...
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
It's like, she'll punch at the name of God. They never actually do that later in the show.
No, they don't. I think that there's not really a question about... I mean, well, yeah, actually, they could have used that a little bit more, because sometimes people are possessed and they don't know. But for the most part, whenever someone's demon-possessed, they're like, I'm demon-possessed now.
Yeah, like, instead of sneaking holy water into everything, you know, they can just say, hey, how you doing? Cristo.
That should be, like, their greeting to everyone among hunters. Like, just say, Cristo.
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 Yeah, so they exorcise the demon out of the dude, then the demon goes into the plane, and we have this nice fun scene where Sam's crawling around on the grungy floor,
trying to get their
dad's
dad's
nasty,
journal.
trying to get his book back so he can exorcise the demon from the plane, and Dean's freaking out in the back.
Yep.
And also, I noticed there was a lot of wind while the plane was crashing.
What's
even
going
though
on
there
there?
wasn't a breach.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
So, I don't know where the wind came from. But, once they do exercise it, oh yeah, it was weird. Lightning strikes the plane.
Yeah, like a bunch of times.
And that's fine. That's okay.
Well, planes are built to be struck by lightning. That happens, like, all the time.
What?
They're flying through the sky, Rachel. You want them to be...
I mean, no, it makes sense, but nothing happens?
I don't think anything happens. I think that they figured out a way to, like...
Wow.
I don't know, it's not... You're the hard scientist.
Am I?
It's not, like, grounded, right? So it should just pass through it.
Wow. Well, anyway, they get struck by lightning, and Dean's hair is all a hot mess.
Yeah, it is. It looks great.
It's hilarious.
Because of the mysterious wind.
From the wind that came from who knows where.
Yeah. So, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that Sam on the floor made me think of that scene, that terrible scene in Snakes on a Plane where a guy's head gets stepped on.
I didn't think about that scene. I just thought about how he's crawling around on the dirty floor.
It would be super gross. Anytime I'm on a plane, I want to shower, like, immediately afterwards.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Just, ew.
And then they land, and I don't know how they get back to their car.
I was wondering the same thing.
I mean, they've got a bunch of stolen credit cards.
It kind of looks like maybe they fly back to their car.
You think they fly?
Because then at the end of the episode, they're clearly right by the airport, sitting on the hood of the car.
But they're talking to that dude who might be working at, like, a plane manufacturing thing, so maybe that's not an airport, maybe it's... Yeah, that's weird. I thought that was a little weird, because they're at an airport at the end.
They talked to that guy. They flew back. Yeah. I guess they could have gotten a car rental.
I think that they probably would have rented a car. They never fly... They fly, like, one more time in the show. And that's to Scotland.
Yeah, that's right.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Probably freaking out.
Yeah. Oh, and they also, when they were fighting that demon, the demon mentioned something about Jessica. Like, I know what happened to your girlfriend. and now she's burning in hell or whatever. And when they're talking about it later, Dean's like, well, demons can read minds, and he was probably just lying to you, but demons can't read minds. If Crowley could read minds, they wouldn't have, he wouldn't have had near as much trouble with Sam and Dean as he did. So that might just be, like, another misconception they have, because they haven't actually really encountered too many demons. And another thing worth mentioning, I feel like when they meet other hunters throughout the show, none of those other hunters really seem to know much about demons either. So I feel like Sam and hunters must not, like, really encounter demons that much, and Sam and Dean must be, like, the real demon experts.
I'm under the impression that they don't really encounter many demons.
Yeah.
Maybe they encounter them more because they're actually looking for the yellow-eyed demon, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're actually looking for one. But then, of course, once, they really saw the demons from hell.
Yeah, then it becomes, like, way more common. Yeah.
Then, like, obviously, there's demons everywhere.
Yeah. Again, they cause a lot more problems than they solve, I feel like. Those Winchester boys.
I would like to say, though, they kept trying to say, like, they opened the gate to hell and let all demons out. They actually didn't. That other dude did, and they tried to stop him, but they failed.
Yeah.
So, they didn't actually do it. They tried to stop it. They just weren't able to stop it.
Yeah, but they blame themselves. I guess that's true. I'm buying into their own, like, persecution complex.
But yeah, I watched it, and I was like, man, why do they keep saying they let all the demons out of hell? They tried to stop it.
Yeah. Well,
they do let Lucifer out of hell, though.
They do.
Obviously.
Yeah, that's completely Sam's fault.
Spoiler
alert. We're getting way too far ahead. That's seasons and seasons away.
So yeah, at the end, it's worth noting at the very end, somehow they end up by their car, and, they're talking to the dude, and they're like, hey man, how'd you get our number? And he's like, oh, your dad's voicemail said to call you.
Yeah.
So they called their dad's voicemail to hear this message, and, they seem like really disappointed.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, oh, we still don't know how to find Dad.
When I was trying to remember this episode before I watched it again, I was like, at the end, it had never, like, occurred to them to call their dad, but I guess it actually had. They had called him multiple times and his line was dead, or out of service, but now it's back in service.
Now it's back, and he's forwarding all his calls to Dean.
Mm-hmm. Typical John, leaning too much on his eldest son.
Leaning so hard.
Poor Dean.
Poor Dean, I know.
We never really talked about, like, behind-the-scenes kind of stuff too much, but this was the first episode I noticed that had been directed by Robert Singer, who was, like, the executive producer, still currently, through the last season, the executive producer, and he wrote, like, 5 episodes total, but he's directed, like, almost 50, which I think is interesting, because later on, we're gonna meet Bobby Singer.
Yes, Bobby!
A character who is Sam and Dean's, like, pseudo-dad, and his name is taken after an executive producer.
I met someone once who, like, just did not like the Bobby character.
What?
I was surprised.
That idiot.
I was like, what? I love Bobby.
Bobby's good. I really like Bobby.
Bobby's awesome, and you can see, where Sam and Dean get some of their Sam and Dean-ness from.
Yeah. And it makes sense to have a Bobby, because if John was the only one, we're talking about this way ahead of time, but if John were the only one to raise both of those boys, they would have turned out way more messed up than they did. Not that they're not messed up, but having, like, some sort of stable human being in their life, like Bobby, is probably why they're somewhat sane.
It's true.
Because John is just, like, an obsessive human being who's not very loving, and, probably not a very good dad. I'm just gonna come out and say it, John Winchester wasn't a good dad.
It's true. I mean, under the circumstances, he did what he could, but, yeah. Probably should have done things a little different.
Yeah. So, as is tradition on Wayward Somethings podcast, we will now rate this episode in terms of scariness from 1 being not very scary to oh my stars being what your mom said whenever scary things happened on the show when we watched it with her. So Rachel, how scary was this episode for you?
0.
Yeah, it's really not a scary episode at all. Considering, it's the first time they find a demon, and demons are supposed to be, the most powerful thing in the world. They don't actually have much difficulty with this demon.
No, they really don't. The scariest thing was that the plane almost went down, but that was kind of funny, because Dean was freaking out. And it's funny when Dean freaks out.
But this episode felt, shorter than the normal episode, and maybe it's just because there's not as much going on. They're not, getting involved with... Usually they're, going to help someone, and they sort of get involved in that person's life. And it's not really what happens in this one.
That's true. Yeah.
So
not as close with the victim.
This is, pretty far down on the list of my favorite episodes, I would say.
Yeah, not my favorite. Did have its moments, when they did their little fast walk when they heard the alarm.
Yeah, there are good moments, and they're definitely...
In their suits.
Yeah, I feel like this is definitely a good episode in terms of, going a little bit more into, who Sam and Dean are, and what are sort of, the tropes of every single episode gonna be, the patterns of the supernatural that just sort of reoccur. That's all good.
Mm-hmm.
But this isn't a particularly interesting episode. It's definitely not a scary episode.
Scary.
I would give it a 1. You gave it a 0, but that's not on our list, so, that's not on the scale. Are you telling
me I'm wrong?
I'm telling you, you're not using the scale correctly, Rachel.
I used my own scale.
That's not how it works.
It's how I worked.
That's not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
The next episode, though, Rach, are you ready for this?
Yeah. No. Oh, no.
The next episode is one that I know scared you. Cause
it did scare me.
I think we were living together at one point, and you told me, you didn't want a mirror in your room because of this, last episode.
I did go through a phase where I had to take all the mirrors down.
Because of this next episode. Oh, it might be our first episode with an Oh My Stars rating, and it is, should we say the name? Should we risk saying the name?
Yes, say it!
Bloody Mary.
Just don't say it any more times than that.
So next episode we'll try and refrain from saying the name of the episode.
You can't say it again, okay?
I won't say Bloody Mary ever again.
Oh my gosh!
Alright, thank you for joining me and Rachel for this episode of Oh My Stars, Wayward Somethings podcast. Next week, Bloody Mary.
Oh my god.
Alright, well, if I'm still alive next week, we'll talk then.
Yes. Bye, Boo!
Bye, Boo!
Have a good night!
You too! How do I exit? Just end the meeting.
Bye!
Oh my god.
Bye!
I'm gonna edit it a little bit, and then this episode I'm leave in that 30-minute discussion about airports. I'm sure people love that.
We got distracted.
We did get really distracted.